November 3, 1944. Kyojokuri Beach, Chiba Prefecture, Japan. The wind is a cold, sharp knife off the Pacific. It's 3 o'clock hours. In the pre-dawn blackness, Sergeant Noriaki Tanaka shivers, his breath pluming. He is not watching a plane. He is not watching a ship. He is watching a monster. It's 33 feet wide, a vast globe of paper and silk, straining against its sandbag tethers. The great bag groans as it fills with hydrogen, the air thick with the smell. This is a fugo. A weapon of vengeance. It looks absurdly fragile. It is, in fact, an engineering marvel of malice. Its skin is made from thousands of pieces of washi paper, laminated together with Konyaku devil's tongue paste, pounded into a tough, airtight membrane by the hands of patriotic schoolgirls. Slung below the globe is not a wicker basket, but a cast iron wheel, a chandelier of 32 sandbags. And at its heart, the payload. 133-pound Type 92 high-explosive anti-personnel bomb. 4 11-pound incendiaries. This is a silent, intercontinental weapon. Tanaka and the men of the 9th Army Technical Research Laboratory are not aiming it. They are simply releasing it. They are feeding it to a god. A 200-mile-per-hour river in the sky that the Americans do not yet know exists, the jet stream. Release. The tethers are cut. The great paper ghost leaps into the darkness. It rises, silent, catching the current at 30,000 feet. It will take 3 days to cross 6,000 miles of ocean. An ingenious altimeter, triggered by barometric pressure, will automatically drop sandbags if the balloon dips too low. When the last 2 sandbags are gone, the mechanism arms the bombs. The final drop will release the payload. The target? The vast, dry, timber-rich expanse of the American Pacific Northwest. In Tokyo, the Imperial General Headquarters is euphoric. This is a terror weapon of genius. They will launch 9,000 of them. They will burn America. They will set the forests of Oregon and Washington ablaze. The enemy, soft and decadent, will panic. Their cities will be choked with smoke. Their workforce will be diverted from building planes and ships to fighting millions of acres of fire. A few days later, it begins. A tattered white parachute is found in Thermopolis, Wyoming. A mysterious explosion craters a field near Kalispell, Montana. Near Medford, Oregon, a fugo descends, dragging its cables across a high-tension power line. The line shorts, cutting power to the city and to the Hanford Engineer Works, the top-secret facility enriching plutonium for the atomic bomb. The attack has, by sheer, dumb luck, come within a hair's breadth of crippling the Manhattan Project. The Japanese army waits. They scan the American radio waves. They read the neutral country newspapers. They wait for the news of burning cities, of a terrified populace, of a nation in chaos. And from America, they hear nothing. Just silence. The generals in Tokyo laugh. They are defenseless, the propaganda ministry concludes. They are so terrified, so soft, they are enforcing total censorship to prevent their people from knowing the truth. The weapon is working. America is helpless. They were wrong. America wasn't helpless. It was just quiet. And it had a secret weapon of its own, hidden in plain sight, a weapon Japan and much of America had already dismissed. December 19, 1944. Fort Benning, Georgia. The red clay of the jump tower field is frozen solid. Sergeant Walter Morris, an imposing, quiet man from North Carolina, stands ramrod straight as his stick of troopers files past, checking each man's static line clip. "Hook up," he barks. The sound is sharp, professional. These are the men of the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion. The Triple Nickles. They are, by every measure, elite. They are all volunteers. They have passed the same grueling jump school as the men of the 82nd and 101st Airborne. They have endured the same 34-foot towers, the same 5 qualifying jumps from AC-47, the same bone-jarring landings. Many, like Morris, have trained harder, jumped cleaner, and marched further than their white counterparts, driven by a cold, burning need to be twice as good. They are paratroopers. The tip of the spear. And they are ready to kill the enemy. But the United States Army has a problem. These men are black. In the segregated military of 1944, the 555th is an experiment. A political hot potato. While white paratroopers are earning glory in the snows of Bastogne, the triple Nickles are trapped at Fort Benning. They are eagles kept in a cage. Their commander, Captain James Porter, a man who believes deeply in his troops, fights a losing war of memos and requisitions. He requests deployment to the European theater. Denied. He requests deployment to the Pacific. Denied. The top brass in Washington sees a problem, not a solution. They fear the reaction of white soldiers. They fear the complications of integrated combat. So, the 555th, the only all-black parachute battalion in the nation's history, is relegated to guard duty. They perform drills. They pack parachutes for white units. They are, in the ultimate insult to their training, occasionally used as porters. Morale is fracturing. These men didn't sign up to be bellhops. They signed up to jump. To fight. They think we'll run, a young private mutters in the mess hall, his voice bitter. Worse, Sergeant Morris replies, his voice low. They don't think about us at all. Then, in early 1945, a new order comes down. It's marked top secret. The battalion is electrified. This is it. The rumors fly. They're going to Europe for the final push on Germany. They're going to the Philippines to jump on Corregidor. They are, finally, going to war. They pack their jump gear, their M1 rifles, their trench knives. The mood is ecstatic. They are going to prove, once and for all, who they are. The train moves out, but it's not heading for an East Coast port. It's not heading for San Francisco. It's heading west. Inland. In May 1945, the men of the 555th Parachute Infantry Battalion disembark, not at a combat airfield, but in the deep, pine-scented wilderness of Pendleton, Oregon. There are no panzers here. There are no Japanese bunkers. There are only trees. Miles and miles of trees. The confusion is palpable. The sense of betrayal is bitter. A stern-faced white officer from the U.S. Forest Service addresses the assembled battalion. He's not here to give them a combat briefing. He's holding a strange, canvas-wrapped tool. A shovel with a scraping edge. A Pulaski. Gentlemen, the officer says, his voice flat. Your mission has been designated Operation Firefly. You are not here to fight the Germans. You are here, to fight fire. A wave of stunned, angry silence rolls through the battalion. Firefighters. These men are airborne infantry. They were trained to jump into occupied France, to drop behind enemy lines, to assault machine gun nests and capture bridges. And they've been handed a shovel. The insult is so profound, it's almost comical. Operation Firefly. It's a joke. Sir, begging your pardon, Sergeant Morris steps forward, his voice a low, controlled rumble of frustration. We are paratroopers, not lumberjacks. You are exactly what we need, Sergeant, the Forest Service officer replies, his face grim. He walks over to a crate and pulls out a twisted, blackened piece of metal. This is a Type 92 high-explosive bomb. We found it 10 miles from here. He then unrolls a large piece of stiff, laminated paper, pockmarked with small holes. And this is the balloon that carried it 6,000 miles from Japan. He explains the Fugo weapon. The silent, 3-day journey on the jet stream. The payload of incendiaries. The Japanese plan, to set the entire Pacific Northwest ablaze, creating a firestorm that would dwarf the 1910 Big Burn. The Japanese, the officer says, his voice dropping, are listening. They are waiting for reports of panic. Of burning cities. Of our war effort grinding to a halt. That's why this mission is top secret. That's why the press has been censored. He points to a vast map of Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, now dotted with red pins. These are the strikes. They are landing everywhere. In mountains. In remote valleys. In places you cannot get to with a truck or a horse. By the time a ground crew hikes in, 20,000 acres are gone. Suddenly, the mission clicks. The anger in the battalion curdles into a cold, sharp focus. This isn't firefighting. This is bomb disposal. This is hunting. The fire isn't the enemy. The bomb is. The fire is just what happens if they fail. You, gentlemen, the officer continues, are the only men in the United States military with the skills to do this. You can drop from a plane, Land in a 100-foot ponderosa pine, climb down, and be on that bomb before it starts the inferno. You are not just firefighters. You will be the first smoke jumpers. This is not the war they wanted. This is not the glory of Europe. There will be no newsreels. No medals for capturing a town. Their enemy is not a soldier, but an explosive device, a spark, and a 100-foot wall of flame. They are being sent to fight a silent, secret war, in their own country, against an invisible enemy, all while their very existence is denied to the public. They are still eagles. But the cage is gone. The sky, and the fire, is their new battlefield. All right, Nickles. Sergeant Morris barks, the frustration gone, replaced by the familiar steel of a first sergeant. You heard the man. Stow your M1s. Draw your Pulaskis. We're jumping into trees. May 20th, 1945. 14,000 feet above the Umatilla National Forest, Oregon. The C-47 transport plane bucks and shudders, not from flak, but from the violent, invisible thermals rising from the mountain ridges. Private First Class Malachi Brown, a 20-year-old from Philadelphia, grips his static line. He's a paratrooper. But everything is wrong. He's not wearing an M1 steel helmet. He's wearing a modified football helmet with a wire mesh cage over his face. He's not wearing his thin jump boots. He's wearing heavy, cleated loggers boots that feel like lead. Strapped to his leg, where his trench knife should be, is a 3-foot-long combination axe and adze, the Pulaski. He and his stick are loaded with rations, 120 feet of coiled let-down rope, and 2-way radios. They look less like soldiers and more like deep-sea divers from another planet. Green light, the jump master, a Forest Service veteran, bellows over the roar of the engines. Go. 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 Malachi shoves out the door. The familiar, brutal pop of the canopy opening is the last familiar thing he'll experience. The ground isn't 800 feet below. It's 2,000 feet below, but the mountains are only 500 feet below that. He's not aiming for a flat field. He's aiming for a patch of smoke the size of a dinner plate, surrounded by what looks like a carpet of green spikes. Those spikes are 150-foot-tall ponderosa pines. This is the jump they were never trained for. Landing in a tree, in combat, is a disaster. It gets you tangled, shot, killed. Here, it is the objective. He hits, not with a jolt, but with a violent crash of breaking branches. His canopy snags, and he is left spinning, dangling 80 feet above the forest floor. He's a human pendulum. He takes a breath, fights the vertigo, and unstraps his let-down rope. He wraps it around the trunk, unclips his harness, and begins the agonizing, arm-burning rappel to the ground. 10 minutes later, his 12-man squad assembles. Sergeant Morris is already there, his face streaked with soot, a map in his hand. Radio's up. Morris commands. Find the device. They move out, not in tactical formation, but in a desperate scramble over fallen logs and through thick underbrush. The smoke is getting thicker. They find it. A shallow crater. Twisted, blackened fragments of a metal wheel. And, stuck to a branch, a piece of washi paper, the delicate, laminated skin of the fugo. Bomb gone, Morris says, his voice flat. But the incendiaries, they did their job. He points. The ground fire has crowned. With a sound like a freight train, the fire explodes up a Douglas fir, instantly consuming it in a 200-foot torch. The heat is a physical blow. This is the new enemy. It doesn't shoot. It doesn't hide. It eats. Line. Morris roars, his voice barely audible over the inferno. Pulaskis. Cut the line. This is not war. This is a special kind of hell. For the next 36 hours, the men of the 555th, a unit trained to attack, do nothing but dig. They cut a fire break a 3-foot-wide trench, scraped bare to the mineral earth. They are choked by smoke, their eyes streaming, their lungs burning. Trees explode around them, throwing shrapnel of burning wood. They collapse, drink from their canteens, and get back up. This is their bastion. A line of dirt, dug by hand, with a wall of fire on the other side. They are fighting a 30,000-acre blaze, and winning. But this is just one fire. And one bomb. The Japanese have launched thousands. As the summer of 1945 gets hotter and drier, the paper ghosts drift over, one by one. And the triple Nickles, the only unit of its kind in the world, jumps, and digs, and fights. The summer of 1945 becomes a blur of smoke, sweat, and silence. The 555th is scattered in small detachments across the Pacific Northwest, from Oregon to Idaho. They are ghosts, chasing ghosts. The work is brutal, and the danger is twofold. First, there is the fire. Then, there is the landing. On August 6, 1945, a C-47 carrying a stick of triple Nickles hits a vicious downdraft near the Umpqua National Forest. The plane shudders. Private First Class Malvin L. Brown, the battalion's first medic, is standing in the open door, preparing to jump. He is thrown from the aircraft, striking the plane's tail. He is killed instantly. He is the first member of the 555th to die. But he will not be the last. This is a war with no front line and no clear enemy. The men jump on smokes that turn out to be false alarms. They jump into raging infernos that nearly overwhelm them. And they jump on bombs. They become experts at neutralizing the Japanese ordnance. They learn to spot the telltale crater, the white silk of the parachute, the unexploded 33-pound anti-personnel bomb. They are not EOD, but they learn to be. They defuse the devices, pack up the evidence, and never, ever talk about it. The national censorship is so total, so effective, that the 555th is fighting a war that, officially, does not exist. And because the war is a secret, the public has no idea of the danger. That ignorance proves fatal. On May 5, 1945, just before the 555th became fully operational, a minister's wife, Elsie Mitchell, and 5 local children are on a church picnic near Bly, Oregon. They stumble upon one of the Fugo bombs, half buried in the forest duff. Curious, one of the children tugs at it. The 33-pound high-explosive bomb detonates. They are all killed instantly. They are the only people to die on the American mainland as a direct result of enemy action during all of World War II. The 555th hears the story, not as news, but as a whispered, classified briefing. It hammers home the lethality of their mission. This isn't just about saving trees. It's about finding the bombs before another child does. While the 555th fights its unseen war, Japan waits. The generals in Tokyo, still hearing only silence, are baffled. Their terror weapon has vanished into a void. The American press is silent. The government is silent. The populace is not in a panic. They conclude the Fugo is a failure. They cannot know that their weapon is working, and that it is being systematically, quietly, and bravely defeated by a battalion of men they would have dismissed as second class, and who their enemy had hidden from sight. By the time the atomic bombs fall on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war, the men of the triple Nickles have completed over 1,200 individual jumps. They have fought 36 fires. 15 of them were confirmed Fugo sites. When the war ends, they are not met with parades. They are not celebrated in newsreels. They are quietly demobilized. Their mission, Operation Firefly, is classified for decades. They were the men America refused to send to the front lines. But in the end, they were the only front line America had. Denied the war they trained for, they were handed an impossible, secret task and they did not fail. Japan laughed at a defenseless America. They stopped laughing when the bombs didn't work, never knowing that the defenseless nation's most underestimated soldiers had been winning a silent war, right in their own backyard.